What if the real secret to a long, healthy life isn't hidden in a superfood, a supplement, or a brutal workout, but in the way you wash a cup, walk to the store, and show up for people, again and again, quietly, almost invisibly, until your body starts to trust you? In this video, we're going to step into a Japanese way of seeing health as everyday craftsmanship, the body shaped by small, faithful motions, the mind steadied by simple routines, and the heart protected by community. If that sounds like the kind of wisdom you want in your life, not hype, but something you can actually live, hit like and subscribe, because we're building a whole series around this kind of deep human change. If you watch Japanese life closely, really watch it, not the tourist version, you start noticing something almost embarrassingly simple. Health isn't treated like a separate project. It's treated like a craft, like brushing lacquer onto wood, like tending a small garden, like sharpening a knife. Not glamorous, not loud, just done with care, again and again, until the body quietly becomes the kind of body that lasts. This idea has old roots. In Zen, the mind isn't purified by thinking about purity. It's trained by washing bowls, sweeping floors, sitting down and standing up with full attention. In Shinto, cleanliness isn't only hygiene. It's also a way of keeping your inner life clear, as if dust on the porch and dust in the heart belong to the same category. And in the tea tradition, the smallest gesture, how you fold a cloth, how you place a cup, carries a message. The ordinary moment is not nothing. The ordinary moment is where your life is actually happening. If you can do a small thing with presence, you can do a hard thing with steadiness. That's what I mean by everyday craftsmanship. The decision to live as if your daily actions are shaping you, because they are. Not in a motivational way, in a physical way, in a nervous system way, in a what you repeat becomes you way. Now bring that ancient lens into modern Japan and you see it everywhere, especially in the city, where life could easily become hurried and disembodied. In the morning, people move with purpose through stations and streets, walking to platforms, standing for trains, climbing stairs, threading through crowds. It's not a fitness plan. It's simply how life is designed and how people participate in it. The body stays in motion because the day requires it, not because the mirror demands it. Even the way many meals are put together, simple portions, variety, attention to balance, feels less like dieting and more like a practiced sense of this is enough. The craft isn't perfection. The craft is consistency. And there's a subtler craft too, maintenance. The respect for keeping things in working order, shoes, tools, bicycles, kitchens, schedules. When you maintain your environment, you reduce friction. When you reduce friction, you reduce the number of times you have to fight yourself to do what's good. This is a quiet psychological trick. A life arranged with care asks less from willpower. It asks more from habit, and habits are easier to carry into old age than motivation. You can feel the same philosophy in villages, but it wears a different face. Out there, health often looks like usefulness. The body is kept alive by being needed, walking to a neighbor's house, tending a small plot, lifting buckets, cleaning a doorway, chopping vegetables, repairing something instead of replacing it. There's a rhythm to it, seasonal, patient, repetitive. Even fatigue has a different texture. Not the drained burnout of constant mental strain, but the tiredness of having participated in the day. And that tiredness, when life is humane, is often the kind that lets you sleep. What's striking is how little this approach depends on grand self-talk. It doesn't require you to constantly announce, "I'm transforming." It doesn't even require you to feel good. It simply asks, can you do the next small thing properly? Can you show up with care for the ordinary? Can you treat your life like something you're making, not something you're consuming? Because the body listens. It listens to your pace. It listens to whether you eat like you're at war with yourself, or like you're feeding something precious. It listens to whether your days are chaotic bursts of intensity followed by collapse, or a steady, breathable rhythm. Longevity, from this angle, isn't a miracle. It's the long-term result of treating daily life as an art you practice. And here's the turn that matters. When health becomes craftsmanship, you stop asking, "How do I fix myself?" And you start asking, "What do I want to practice becoming?" That one shift changes everything. It makes movement feel natural instead of punishing, which is where we're going next. And it makes community feel essential instead of optional, because no craft survives without a village of support, seen or unseen. And then there's movement, the part most people reduce to exercise, as if it's a separate compartment of life, like a pill you swallow to cancel the damage of your day. But in the Japanese imagination, the body isn't a machine you punish into compliance. It's more like a field you tend. You don't crush a workout. You cultivate circulation. You keep the spirit from stagnating inside the flesh. If you go back far enough, you find that Japanese culture never fully separated physical practice from inner practice. The old rituals weren't fitness routines, but they carried a physical intelligence. Think of purification rites in cold water, the deliberate washing of hands at a shrine, the steady walking to sacred places, the posture of kneeling, rising, bowing, and standing again. These actions look simple, even small, but they train something deep. Endurance without drama, discipline without performance, humility without self-hatred. They teach the body how to obey without being bullied, and that's a crucial distinction. A lot of modern exercise culture is driven by a kind of internal violence, an idea that the body is guilty and must be corrected. Japanese traditions tend to aim at something quieter. You practice so you can become steady. You practice so you can carry life well. In martial arts, this becomes unmistakable. The point isn't merely strength, it's form, it's breath. It's the ability to stay relaxed under pressure. Kata, those repeated forms, are not reps in the gym sense. They're a way of shaping character through the body. You repeat until your movement becomes honest, until you stop faking, until you stop flinching. Your mind learns from your shoulders. Your fear learns from your stance. This is why ancient training often feels like philosophy you can sweat. That same spirit survives in modern Japan in ways that don't announce themselves as wellness. In the city, movement is stitched into the day like thread. People walk to stations, transfer between platforms, climb stairs, stand on trains, carry bags, weave through crowds, cycle to errands. It's not that every person is athletic, it's that the environment keeps asking the body to participate. Your legs don't get to retire just because you got busy. Your joints don't get to freeze because you had meetings. Life keeps you slightly warm. Then there's the uniquely Japanese phenomenon of shared, gentle discipline. The morning group calisthenics you'll see in schools, workplaces, and neighborhood parks. The movements are modest, stretching, swinging arms, bending, and straightening. But the philosophy is bold. It says, the body belongs to the day, so greet the day by waking the body. It also says, you don't need a heroic plan. You need a reliable beginning. And there's something psychologically powerful about doing it with others. Even if you barely speak, your nervous system learns, we start, we move, we don't negotiate with inertia. That's a kind of communal kindness. Nobody is asking you to be exceptional. They're asking you not to disappear. In villages and smaller towns, the movement looks different, but the logic is the same. Stay useful, stay involved, stay in rhythm with the world around you. Older people might not call it exercise, but they walk to visit someone, tend a small garden, squat and stand while working, clean an entryway, carry groceries, hang laundry, sweep, prune, and lift. The body is not trained in an abstract sense. It's kept in conversation with real tasks. And because the tasks are ordinary, the movement is sustainable. It doesn't spike and vanish. It hums. Over decades, that hum matters more than bursts of intensity. The philosophy underneath all of this is almost embarrassingly practical. A long life requires a body that doesn't resent movement. So movement is kept close to daily identity. It isn't framed as punishment for eating or as payment for being allowed to rest. It's framed as maintenance, like airing out a room or wiping down a counter. You don't do it because you're broken. You do it because you're alive, and life gathers dust. There's also a more subtle wisdom. In Japanese aesthetics, stillness is respected, but it's the kind of stillness that comes after right effort, not the dead stillness of neglect. A body that moves each day earns its rest. A mind that circulates through small motions doesn't get trapped so easily in obsessive thought. Even walking becomes a kind of meditation when you stop trying to get somewhere emotionally and simply place one step, then the next. The body teaches the mind how to return. And maybe that's the deepest lesson here. Movement is not only for the muscles, it's for the relationship between you and time. When you move regularly, you stop treating your future self like a stranger you'll deal with later. You begin paying small debts daily instead of letting them compound into crises. You make peace with gradualness. You accept that real change is not a single decision. It's a pattern you keep. Which is why exercise in this worldview isn't really about conquering the body. It's about refusing to abandon it. It's a daily gesture that says quietly, I'm still here. I'm still participating. And once you're participating, something else becomes possible. Because the healthiest movement often isn't the movement you do alone. It's the movement that keeps you connected to people. That's where we go next. Social health, the invisible muscle that makes all the visible muscles last. If everyday craftsmanship is how Japan teaches the body to last, and daily movement is how it keeps the body awake, then social health is the unseen architecture that makes both of those things sustainable. Because a person can diet alone, and a person can exercise alone, but a person cannot carry a whole life alone. Not for long, not without quiet damage. Longevity is never only a biological story. It's also a story about belonging. Who notices you, who expects you, who would miss you if you disappeared. Japan has its own complicated relationship with community. Beautiful, demanding, sometimes heavy. But at its best, the social fabric works like a net. Not a cage, a net. You don't always feel it until you slip, and then you realize something is holding you. Look at the smallest details. Bowing isn't only etiquette, it's a way of acknowledging presence. The careful use of honorific language isn't just politeness, it's a daily reminder that people have inner lives and social weight. Even the idea of meiwaku, not causing trouble for others, can be read cynically as pressure, but it also reveals something profound. The Japanese self is trained early to sense impact. My choices ripple outward. When a society makes ripples visible, people tend to move with more care. That care becomes a kind of social health. And then there's the basic truth that Japanese culture, historically, leans toward a relational self. You are not only you are a member, a neighbor, a colleague, a customer, a regular, an elder, a junior. These roles can be exhausting, yes, but they also create structure. Structure is one of the most underrated medicines. It gives your day shape, and it gives your aging dignity. When your identity contains roles, you can lose speed, beauty, income, or status, and still remain someone who belongs somewhere. In cities, this shows up in quiet rituals of order. People line up. They return lost items. They keep shared spaces clean. On the surface, it's rules. Underneath, it's a psychological agreement. Public life can be trusted. That trust reduces stress in the body in ways we rarely measure. Imagine what it does to your nervous system to live decades in a place where strangers mostly follow the same choreography. It's not perfect, and it can feel impersonal, but it creates a baseline of predictability. The body relaxes when the world is less chaotic. And still, The deeper nourishment often comes from smaller circles. The neighborhood ties, greeting the same shop owner, being recognized at a corner place, seeing familiar faces on a morning walk. The workplace groups that eat together, the shared seasonal events, the festivals that turn a street into a communal heartbeat for one day. Even in dense urban life, there are threads of repeated contact. And repeated contact is the soil where care grows, slowly, without needing dramatic declarations. In villages and rural towns, social health becomes even more tangible. Life there often has a stronger sense of mutual visibility. People check in. They exchange small gifts. They notice absences. The line between my life and our life is thinner. Elders are sometimes woven into the daily world rather than outsourced into isolation. They may still work, still tend something, still advise someone, still be visited. That usefulness is not a sentimental detail. It's a protective factor. When you are useful, your life has traction. You wake up with reasons that are not abstract. There's also a moral philosophy in Japanese social life that shapes behavior over time. The expectation of reciprocity, of gratitude, of not forgetting what you received. It's visible in gift-giving culture, in seasonal greetings, in the way obligations are remembered and returned. Again, this can become burdensome, but at its healthiest, it keeps people stitched together. It prevents the modern fantasy that you are entirely self-made. And that fantasy, for all its pride, is psychologically lonely. Of course, Japan also carries shadows here. Conformity can be suffocating. Shame can become a weapon. Loneliness exists even in crowded trains. Some people live behind closed doors, unseen for too long. So we have to tell the truth. Social fabric can either support a human being or squeeze them. The philosophy of longevity isn't to romanticize community. It's to learn the difference between connection that nourishes and connection that performs. Still, when we speak of social health in a Japanese key, the heart of it is simple. Show up. Be part of the seasons. Be seen somewhere, even modestly. Create a life where your absence would be noticed, not because you're important, but because you're integrated. That integration lowers stress, invites movement, steadies appetite, and gives routine meaning. It even changes how people recover from hardship. Pain shared is pain metabolized. And there's one more quiet lesson Japan offers. You don't always need deep conversations to be connected. Sometimes you need reliable presence, a nod, a repeated greeting, a shared chore, a community cleanup, a meal in the same place, a small responsibility. In many Western imaginations, intimacy is the proof of connection. In much of Japanese life, consistency is the proof. And consistency, like daily movement, like everyday craftsmanship, is something a person can keep for a long time. Longevity then becomes less like extending life and more like making life inhabitable. A body can survive many things, but a body that feels alone carries a heavier weight. Social health is how that weight gets distributed, so you can walk farther, live calmer, and age without feeling like you're fading into air. And maybe this is the most human truth hiding underneath all the Japanese wisdom we've been walking through. A long life isn't won by intensity. It's earned by devotion to the ordinary. You don't age into health the way you stumble into luck. You age into health the way a craftsperson ages into mastery, by making small, quiet vows and keeping them. You sweep the floor, you stretch the body, you walk even when nobody is watching, you eat with respect, you repair what can be repaired. You rest before you break. You return again and again to what is simple and true. And you let people matter. Because when you look closely, the opposite of illness isn't a perfect body. The opposite of illness is a life that feels connected. Connected to time, to routine, to purpose, to seasons, to places, to faces. A life where you are not just surviving privately, but participating publicly. Where your name exists in someone else's mouth and your absence would leave a small silence. So if you're listening to this and you feel overwhelmed by health advice, here's the gentle challenge. Stop trying to transform your life all at once. Instead, choose one small act you can do with care, one daily motion, one humble meal, one human connection, and treat it like a brushstroke on the canvas of your future. Not because you're chasing immortality, but because you're refusing to abandon your own life while it's still here. And in that way, longevity stops being an obsession with years and becomes something quieter, something braver, a decision to live in a way that can be continued.